Okay, we are red, and as we all know, red is on. As I say it every time.
Okay, red is on. Okay, good evening and welcome to Thursday, January 17th, 2019 Selectmen's Meeting. All could rise and say the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think I blew my brains out. Lost my place.
Okay, great. So, got another night of budget coming up. We've got the minutes of 12/28/2018. Did we have minutes last week too?
We've been pushing them off every week, so.
Yeah.
And so what you have, and Gail has them all, you'll have 1/3, 1/9, 1/10, 1/16, 1/17 after tonight, minutes to look at on 1/24. At the January 24th meeting.
So we'll look at Thursday, December 20th. Everybody's got a copy of that?
Indeed.
Okay,
Do you want a copy of mine, Peter?
I think I got them taken home, so I'll look online.
I have an extra copy if somebody wants them.
December 20th?
Yes.
December 20th.
Thank you.
December 20th.
It's on the first page. Just above non-public session down at the bottom, Selectman Dawson. I informed him that the door to the second floor stairs in town hall had a gap allowing heat loss, and the windows in the second floor were difficult to open, but we also had a heat loss with those windows. And I would like this to reflect that I did ask the Board of Select, Kevin offered, or stated that he could, fix that. The consensus of the board was to have him do it. So I didn't- I mean, board, I'm sorry, too many meetings. So I didn't say, Kevin, fix the door and windows. I asked the Board of Selectmen if it was fine after he offered to fix them. And then on page, this one isn't numbered, so it'd be 1, 2, third page. Down under Town Administrator Update, Chuck Roberts. Explained that a boundary fence had been placed, leaving a narrowing section, making it impossible. I said, I didn't say impossible, I said it may make it difficult for service and emergency vehicles to get through. And that the deputy chief, Jim Jubert, would be looking at it to ascertain if that was so. underneath that, where it said Conservation Commission Chair Chuck Mitchell submitted a letter requesting the selectmen to encumber funds to use arborist plow brush road to remove brush and small trees. Somewhere in there it should indicate, I mean, we did have a conversation that just submitted a letter saying he'd like to encumber funds wasn't enough, but there had to be an obligation to pay, and I believe that was sufficed. So whatever words you need to, otherwise it sounds like we're just saying, yeah, you want it, we're gonna hold that for you.
So, could you just say that one more time, what it is you're looking for?
The way it's written, it sounds like we're just gonna hold money back just because people want it. There has to be, by law, an obligation to pay. So when we had this conversation, that's what we discussed, and then it was resolved why it would be encumbered, because they would contract with Paul Russia. They would have an obligation to pay. This doesn't indicate that.
Isn't that covered in the motion?
No. It should be in the discussion. A purchase order is not enough.
That's fine, I'll take care of it.
A purchase order is just saying, hey, would you do this?
If on page 2, the fourth paragraph when we were voting on the weapon, the last sentence, be however, no waiting for the last meeting of the year to spend the money. Where it's bold on page 2,
Last sentence.
last sentence on here. Timing as opposed to spending time.
Make a motion to accept the minutes of Thursday, December 20th, 2018, as amended, as corrected.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion, or anybody need more time? Okay, call the question. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? So moved.
Can I ask a question before we go on? Why do we have a separate check register in the to be signed folder?
I just put them all together.
Oh, so this was separated? Okay.
Yeah, I just,
Okay. I didn't know if this was separate.
no.
Mr. Chairman, Tim is going to be a few minutes late. He's working on pulling together some information that Selectmen had asked him to gather. And I wondered if you wanted to have Dari up now, land use, and have that conversation with him since he's here.
Sure.
Are we done with minutes for now?
Yeah.
We had, Jerry sent us an email and to explain, I think we should clarify that, what he was looking
I think so.
for.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that would work great.
There's no more they did with it.
It's good, or?
Which is it?
Okay,
Yeah, come on down.
Yeah, we might bite.
I can see you all better from,
Everybody
better
can
to
hear
see
you.
with.
Dari,
Go ahead.
there are
Thank you.
your copies.
Oh,
I didn't know if you wanted to, at the end of your...
It's in bigger.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I,
Okay. All right. Okay.
get the email and regarding the additional hours for land use technician, just some information. So we can go over that. And, so it will be part of the public record.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah. Do you, has everyone received the email and had a chance to read it? Okay, all right. Do you want me to?
So I think for the purposes of your department budget, the selectmen read your email, and I think it might be helpful if you just explain to them what you're looking for, and then they probably will have questions for you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll just kind of summarize the email. It was my understanding you wanted some more detail on the proposal to add some hours to the land use technician position. And it is my opinion that we've all seen that Sheena's done an excellent job. She's gained proficiency.
Let's not put a personal name to this, let's just put assistant,
Okay,
because you're asking for personnel addition, not necessarily.
okay. So the individual in the position is working well. The individual that occupies that position at this time is succeeding and gaining proficiency. On top of that, I'm seeing opportunity to become more involved in community development activities. And the thought was to add hours to this position that's working well, to free up time on my side to spend more time planning and less time doing administrative work.
So what you're suggesting is the increase in hours for the land use technician would signal a change in the way the mission of the planning department has been up to this point. So what is the positive, what does Tilton get back for that change?
Yeah, and I'll sort of refer to the last paragraph in my email to provide an answer to that question. I think we've already gotten started on some initiatives, if you will, for lack of a better word, in the community development direction through several applications that we put together and submitted to DOT. And similarly, I think we can work with other agencies and organizations that exist here in the state to look for other community development opportunities. May they grants or just collaboration with other entities. And so what actually will Tilton get out of it? I mean, hopefully better sidewalk, better transportation, better traffic patterns, better sidewalks, pedestrian safety, hopefully a more vibrant Main Street. These are the types of things that we'd be working toward in the end.
Could you quantify like how many hours we're talking about and the cost?
I'm afraid I don't have numbers, and I can certainly provide that. The hours to be, and I believe you do have numbers. I don't have them in front of myself at this point. But it would be, the position currently consists of 16 hours per week, and the plan would be to move it up to an average of 22 per week. The way it would work out, because it would stay, for 2019, it would stay 16 hours until finally approved in March, and then that would give us 24 hours a week for the rest of the year. But
Is that
again,
what's on this?
I don't
So
know.
it's an additional 8 hours a week from 16 to 24.
Well, but yes, but on an annual average, it would be an additional 6 hours per week.
Going to 8 hours, so that's cheap.
guess the way it would
Because
work,
there's 3 or 4 months that it's, you know, the one rate. And if you spread that out over 12, yeah, it's 6 hours a week, but then in the following years, it would be 8 hours.
no, it's kind of, I think the way, and I obviously, Tim is the numbers person on this, the way it works is that if we requested the funding necessary for that 6-hour per week increase, because it wouldn't come through until March, that same money would essentially be used, that was going to be used for 12 months, would be used for 9 months, and that would allow for 8 hours a week from March to December of 2019. But then that same block of money spread out over an entire year, say come 2020, would be the equivalent to 6 hours.
Oh, I see.
Does that make sense, Jim?
Okay.
So currently, I don't believe this venue into community development is in the job description for your position.
Okay.
To change for the department.
So I'd be curious, well, I apologize, I don't have the job description in front of me, I should have thought of bringing it. I guess my question is, what duties that are currently in your job description would have to be passed on to somebody else for you to pursue this community development?
I mean, so the specific daily tasks that I'm looking at are planning board, management of planning board activities.
And it's,
Did you elaborate?
Sure. In recent years, the progression of the planning board and consequently the land use office has been toward more thorough site plan review involving the exchange of many iterations of plans and documents pertaining to traffic, parking, stormwater, utilities, lighting, third-party review, abutter correspondence, financial surety, legal matters, etc. Moreover, once a case has been conditionally approved, significant work usually remains to document compliance with conditions of approval before presenting a final plan to the board. This ongoing cycle of compiling necessary information, distributing it to all the right people, and then processing feedback, in parentheses, which commonly leads to the need for more documents, is time-consuming and it requires the attention of someone with strong organizational skills. It is my expectation that the additional land use technician hours would be used to manage all administrative aspects of planning board business while continuing to improve the department's organization of digital and paper records.
So I appreciate you reading it to me, however, the traffic, parking, stormwater, and all of that has been part of site planning always, but that is certainly only one small portion of the administrative aspects of planning, used to manage all administrative aspects of planning. So, is that the only thing that you're looking at the technician to do? And then
That
all
would
the
be-
rest, the notifying of abutters and all that would still be your responsibility?
No. I think actually the only possible the only administrative element of planning board business that I would probably hold on to would be minutes.
That's helpful. Okay,
yeah,
so, then you would still be attending planning board and zoning board?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then I'm back to, we would have to change the job description.
Okay.
yeah, it would have to change.
In a previous conversation you had with the board about increasing the hours for this position, you at that time talked about, and there was I don't remember exactly what it was, for the code enforcement officer, but that she would also be dealing with the building permits more to help the code enforcement officer, but that suggestion you had, changing the code enforcement officer's duties, is off the table.
Mm-hmm.
Would the technician still be pursuing more of those jobs. In other words, processing, building inspection, permits, not inspections, I'm sorry, permits, et cetera.
Yeah, at this time, given, like you said, the fact that the code enforcement officer position is off the table, I don't see a need for any significant change to the land use technician's level of assistance to the building permit program, if you will.
Not at all. Well, I'm
I don't want to
thinking
say not at
because
all,
the-
because, sorry, we continue to gain proficiency in using iWorks. And as we kind of continue to use more and more aspects of that software, things are going to change, and we may find there are things that are better done by the technician here in the office and allow the code enforcement officer more time in the field. I can't say exactly, but I think,
Okay.
next few months, nothing significant.
Okay, that's good, thank you.
Thanks.
So, there's nobody pursuing grants and that kind of stuff currently?
Well,
There hasn't been up to this point?
I think that within the last few months, with some changes that have taken place here at Town Hall, including the, let's just say in the past few months, with some changes that have taken place here at Town Hall, I think there's been a renewed focus on grant opportunities and opportunities for community development. So I guess I wouldn't, maybe I'm not the right person to speak to the, sort of the history of Tilton's,
You hadn't been doing that kind of stuff before.
what's that?
I'm thinking you hadn't been doing that.
Had not, right, yeah.
Well, your work on the DOT plan was very good. I mean,
Thank you.
yay.
Thank you.
True,
Yeah.
and so if it kept in line with those kind of developments, it seems like it would be worth it for us to pursue more of that.
I appreciate your saying
If
that.
we haven't been pursuing it prior, certainly you were effective on this one.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that, if you look at my background in planning, having worked with Lakes Region Planning Commission, the State Office of Energy and Planning, managing multi-million-dollar grant programs and whatnot, it does match, it's probably a better match from my experience and probably more valuable to the community. And so, I mean,
That's what I
I
wonder,
won't-
how does it benefit the community?
yeah.
I
I'm
see
not
where
gonna
you-
say I haven't spent a lot of years, managing site plan as well. That's certainly something I spent quite a bit of
Would have
time
been nice if we'd had you 25 years ago.
Yeah, that would have been peachy, absolutely.
You'd have been a little young.
That's right. Everybody's got an angle, just because he's a kid.
Well, if I could just say, there are a lot of exciting things happening around Tilton, and we are right in the middle of all of it. And we have been working, as you know, on the Plan New Hampshire charrette, which I think is really going to give a vision and a roadmap for Tilton as to where you want to go. We visited a business the other day, I did, and they're looking at expanding in Tilton,
Yay.
and talked about pursuing an economic revitalization zone, an ERZ. So that's something I came back and talked with Daria about, said, can we do this? Let's put this together. Let's put this in front of the selectmen to consider this, because this will help that business expand and grow and create jobs in Tilton. So there's so many opportunities out there, whether it's through CDFA or Plan New Hampshire or DOT, that we should be part of it. I mean, I believe we should, and I think that's the message I got when I came into the job. So that's what I've been working with Dari on. And I think, as he said, he's got the background and the experience and the knowledge that will help us achieve that.
Good, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want to hand those out?
Sure, I don't want to take you off your intended schedule, Chairman, but I did bring some, I have some detailed reports from 2018 from iWorks that I can distribute.
They're clipped all together
Oh.
in packs.
Sorry, you had it nicely clipped and I messed it up. So,
Yeah, each one
I
gets a
can,
pack,
okay.
yeah.
So I can just leave this with you and leave, or
Yeah.
I'll be back, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
you can leave.
Okay.
Yeah. Doesn't iWorks have a smaller font? This looks like
Sorry.
ants on a page.
I'm sorry. I will do 11 by 17 next time or something.
Just print both sides, and you won't use any more paper.
Okay.
And make it twice as big.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Or even, sometime after we get through budget, it'd be nice to have,
Oh,
we've got a great screen.
no, we should definitely do that.
that's a good
And
idea.
show, so you
If
you have
you'd
some
be,
time.
there are some cool. Yeah, I will do that. Definitely. That's a
we
great
know
idea.
the presentation, and we can all see it in photos.
Absolutely. No,
Shows how
it's
it works.
you can't really see the capacity of the program without doing something like
And then
that.
we
So
can walk
yeah,
through, make
Yeah,
it powerful.
definitely. Absolutely.
Everybody be interested in that after we get through
I would,
budgets.
and I'd like to see more presentation on this charrette, how this works
Okay.
down the road as well.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your time. Have a good
Thanks,
night.
Gary.
Thank you.
So, we're still waiting on Tim. I don't know if you'd like to go into non-public to talk about, we've got two issues. One is personnel, the contract, and the other is acquisition.
Make a motion to go to non-public for RSA 91 April 3. Personnel.
A, essential promotion and compensation of any public employee
That.
or the discipline of such employee or the investigation charges against him.
Executed in.
Oh, right,
Unless,
sorry.
I just noticed it says against him, it should be him or her,
Or her.
Two,
such
two,
Hey,
person.
Derek, could you put the non-public?
two
sign?
outstanding
that's right, that's right.
issues that we have.
Hey, Chief.
Here comes Tim.
Do you have a second? Did we all vote?
Peter seconded it.
I second.
Nobody voted?
Okay, and
Constantino, yes.
Do you want?
Dawson,
Then yes.
Cog, yes.
Jessamine, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
And that's a yes. We are red, red is on.
We go
Oh,
on.
Good
Despite
evening,
the fact-
good evening, and welcome back to the public session of the Selectmen's meeting. You might notice that there was some time that we're out there, and we lost power during our non-public session. And just to let you know,
We
and
pushed through it.
we did it by candlelight, and the power is back on, and we're
Building
now going
personnel.
back into public session.
So I'll
Mr.
make
Chairman,
Motion.
I'd like to
Motion
make-
to seal the minutes of the non-public session as they pertain to personnel matters permanently, and as they pertain to the potential sale or acquisition of land, real property, until such time as the
yes,
the business has been completed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next, budget. What's it?
May I ask a question of Tim before we move on, before I forget it? Did we in the budget add $10,000 for engineering?
Yes, we did.
For what purpose?
I'm sorry, not for engineering, for down payment, for a down payment,
On?
for the police building.
So
On
my
that line.
question is, that they're going to have a warrant article to raise money for engineering, why did we add $10,000 to the budget?
It's not for engineering, it's for the down payment, the
Oh, the property.
the
So
property.
Which would be.
Didn't we put that in the same line with the 5,000?
Yes, but the 5,000 is for the remainder of the contract with the architect.
Right, so the other is not. for engineering.
No, it's not. We don't have money set aside for engineering.
And we don't have miscellaneous anymore, huh?
And that would
We did remember to do it.
Okay, so where we are at
We did gather, you're
the
right.
Well,
budget and how we do,
Yeah,
want
if I
to
can-
proceed tonight on the budget.
if I can bring you up to date on a few things. So there was a few changes made, a couple of corrections.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, this $10,000 that we already voted on. If we're going to make an agreement with whatever, the down payment will have to be made before town meeting.
Why?
This is a little difficult to discuss in public, but our intention is to return to the other party with a counter offer on the consideration with the purchase and sale, dependent upon town meeting vote.
So you're not gonna have a purchase and sale until after town meeting?
No, we would, but there would be an amount that would be available to use and make a,
So, okay, I get it, I know what you do, I got it, okay, good faith.
for instance. a
Good
dollar.
faith, right? Good faith. Okay, I got it, thank you. Thank you, John. Good faith.
Yeah,
So that does bring up a question, though, if we want to add money to the, in the administrative budget, to line, let's see, where is it here? On page 3, line 0162, 4194, 99, 475, PD Building Study Committee. So we have
On
10,000.
page 3, I'm sorry, I can't find it.
It's about a little further than halfway down,
475.
475.
I'm using it for budget.
You're using, okay.
Is this an
This
early?
has all my notes in it, so
This is the new one, improved.
just flip over to yours, it's gonna be difficult.
Where we,
Page 3.
Page 3, about the
line
Got it.
475.
7th line up from the bottom.
got it?
So without objection, you, the board, will acknowledge the contractual commitment we have with the Goodrow agreement signed in 2017, which encumbers those funds for the purpose of fulfilling that contract. We never finished that contract, and there's $5,000 remaining. So at some point, when we are entering our new budget after town meeting, the $5,000 will be added. It essentially comes from unreserved fund balance. The $10,000, as I mentioned, was for deposit, and so the question is, do you want to add money for geotechnical service here?
We didn't get this information yet, and nothing's been submitted. I don't want to just guess at it.
Well, I would say
We can
yes, but
amend
we
it.
need estimates.
We need estimates, okay, so I just want to make sure that we don't miss.
He said around 6,000, but that's fine.
Well,
We got time to change it, right?
Yep, we do, we can get
Okay.
it done.
That can be amended.
Yes, it can.
or in their warrant article, they could include that.
Yes, we could.
Either way.
It will be,
Can we just move on?
it should be done prior to that. But in any event, in the administrative budget, everything else is done.
Wait a minute, hold on. I know you want to rush this, John. However, this really needs to be taken care of, and he's got a
We don't
good
have the
point.
numbers, we all just discussed that we don't have the numbers, we put 10,000 in, we discussed that they're going to come back with some information, everybody's gonna supply it, and then we'll amend it and do it.
I didn't hear anybody say that they were gonna supply it. Did anybody here say they were gonna supply the numbers?
They were going to get the
Who?
numbers from the,
We were
Nobody
discussing,
said that.
we were
I'm just not
discussing
public.
getting the regular
Did
numbers.
anyone say that?
But
24.
we had borings done. So we do have some type of
We do.
an estimate. We had
Right.
borings done on Business Park Drive on 2 properties, which would give us an idea of a figure. That could be someone could call up the board company and say, the same company and say, hey, are these, blah, blah, blah.
I just wanted to
Just
point it out so that we don't miss it in the next review. In the town clerk tax collectors line, I have one slight correction. In the salary, I went back and calculated directly from her weekly salary, so there was a slight change in the figure. The actual figure at 2.5% would be $62,201. The figure before was $62,165, I believe.
Wait a
So,
minute, how does that figure out here?
So
I see what you're, way over to the right.
I put in the correction of 62,201 because the board had intended to make it 2.5%. So I corrected that figure, and that is based on her weekly wage. And as such, it changed the bottom line of the town clerk tax collector line. And if that's, if that meets with your approval, then the change, if the change meets with your approval. And did you want to vote on that new number? Because you voted on the number prior to that? The 129,168 for town clerk tax collector department?
Previously, we voted, approved what number?
You had voted
129,472.
130,473, or did we vote on the request?
129,473.
129,473. Voted on the request.
133.
So what you're asking them to vote on is the 129,168.
That's correct.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No,
No,
Okay, in the finance line, I have one late change. I was able to, by working with our existing financial vendor, I was able to get a better rate. And if the board is in agreement and that we stick with our current provider, they're willing to give us a 2.5% rate for the TAN for 2019, which represents a 2% increase, and I'll be able to reduce the request some. Now, it has to pass their loan committee. I don't want to take it out just yet. But if that's consensus of the board, I'll be looking at making a revision to that line.
very nice.
I was very surprised. All right, why don't we do some more cleanup before we move into IT, if we could. The land use, are you ready to make a decision on the land use budget? I believe you had voted in yesterday, the 135,272. Were there any changes based on today's discussions for that?
no,
Okay.
we did not,
We didn't vote on the land
we
use
didn't
budget.
vote on that 138,072.
No, we didn't vote on the land use budget.
I had that marked. Well,
I think they were still discussing the,
well,
That's why we put in Dari here.
Okay.
Technician.
I had it marked, but only, I did reduce the lines for the alternates.
Okay, yes, we did vote on 135,272 minus the $2,800, I mean, 138,072 minus $2,800 for the alternates. So we voted on 135,272.
We didn't vote on the bottom
We
line.
didn't vote on it.
Okay. My mistake. Did you want to vote on that tonight or not?
We need to
Can you,
publicly vote on the land use technician line.
If you prefer to skip it now, we can, and move on.
I would say, personally, I would skip it right now.
We don't have a motion to vote on it.
Okay, all right. So, also, you would have received today, I sent to the board earlier today, there were about 6 spreadsheets from Community Action Program. I have not reviewed them myself, but I'd gotten copied on it, so I sent them through. Is that something that the board is wanting to discuss? That's the one item in the outside agencies that you have not resolved.
No, I actually, if I received an email today, I worked all day, and then I came here, so I didn't have time to digest. I don't know if anybody else had time to discuss it.
Don't ask me because I really did feel we should fund him the 26,000.
Did anybody need more time to look at the information?
Oh, no, I've got plenty of information.
Do we wish to move forward on it?
Cap?
Yep. Or do we want to look at the
If you want to
information that
digest,
was?
I don't care.
The only way I would vote on funding them their request is if the board agreed to send them a letter next week saying that we would not entertain funding at the same level because we feel it's not proportioned
This year?
over all the communities that they serve.
Second.
For,
Hang on, you're voting to approve it, but not
And
approve
so
the
I'm
amount.
saying,
for
for
next
me,
year, you mean?
the only way that I would vote yes
Yeah,
to their request
yeah.
this year is if we agreed as a board to send them a letter saying that we would not entertain funding them at that level unless the apportionment for the services was fairly spread over all the towns that they serve.
In future years, right?
This
Right.
year. Future year?
Future year.
Right, so next year when they come forward, but
Why next year, Catherine?
well,
You want us to pay 50% of the town's budget, where one town pays nothing, several are paying under 3,000.
no, it drives me nuts, but I also don't want to risk the services that we have at the senior center, because I've seen firsthand how important that is to our residents.
It's not really, it's not just the senior center.
I
It's
know it
fuel
isn't.
assistance, electricity.
It's my own clients that I see, do you know how many times I refer them to capture fuel? But I don't think the apportionment is fair.
So, we went, and we decided last night that we were going to go and try and get some more information. We got the information, it was delivered today. I haven't had a chance to look at it,
That's why I'll wait.
and I'd like to wait, because that's,
So let's move
Then I'm good on waiting. Okay.
if
All right.
that's okay with everybody.
Okay, so what would you like to tackle next? Police or IT?
Please,
I have a motion to make under outside agencies. I would like to make a motion to fund New Beginnings for the budgeted request of $1,575.
second.
A motion and a second to fund New Beginnings at their requested $1,575. Any further discussion?
We did vote it down to 0 last night, and I'm making a new motion.
I'd like to
Can
hear
I,
why the change.
yeah, I want to ask Joe his opinion, sorry about
My opinion hasn't
Sure.
changed from what I said last night, but to reiterate, for those who might not have seen that, I have concerns about the accountability of the administration at New Beginnings. However, New Beginnings is a wonderful organization that's the last resort for people who have no other resorts. I think it's a very important service to have in the town. I'd love if they addressed my concerns, but in lieu of that, I think we get far in excess of $1,500 worth of services from New Beginnings. And I've heard nothing but good things about their service. What they do for people is exemplary. That's why my change.
We have a motion. A second. Did we have a second?
Mhm.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
that. Aye.
Opposed? So moved, unanimous.
I'm like,
So passed,
It's already in.
done. Okay,
So PD, you said? Okay. There was a change in the PD, which is on the equipment purchase line. And I've got the detail for the detail fund as I've gone through and audited the 2018 end of year for them. And as such, we had enough revenue and net revenue, I should say, that will allow us to remove the overage that was put into the operating budget for the police special detail. So here we have $22,989 in the balance coming into 19. You can see we have $37,878 worth of payments through the year, and I'm estimating $15,263 of net revenues. On, it's not on the back, but our per hour net revenue in the fund has increased steadily over the years as the New Hampshire retirement rule change affects more and more of our officers doing special duty. So back in 2011, those that were hired before 2011, we have to pay New Hampshire retirement on special detail billing. After that, people hired after that, we don't. So we've seen our net revenue per hour increase from about $15 an hour 4 years ago to $19.03 an hour last year. So that's good news. I also am recommending that the board increase the detail rate, and I'll do that in a separate piece outside of this particular meeting. But I think because the overall activity is down, I'm recommending increasing it $5 to $75 for outside agencies and $65 for towns per hour. So the combination of our average billing and looking at even a lower than what we contributed to the fund this last year, I feel pretty comfortable that we've got enough money to cover our expenses in that fund.
So you brought it back down to
So we brought
$4,000.
to $4,000 and removed the $54.38.
Can I ask that before you ask the board to put the rate up, can we get the surrounding towns and what their rates are?
I did ask the chief for that. I did.
We're going to vote on that tonight. We're
But
gonna-
I'm asking
Right.
for information
Oh,
on
Of
that.
course,
though.
yeah.
Oh, I thought you thought we were going to vote on it tonight.
No.
I'm with Pat.
Mhm. So, that was really the only other change, and was good news. I still am. I'll tell you, after this last year, I'm still very cautious and watching it very closely. So
These numbers are based on which amount? On the estimated net revenues? 2019, 20, 21.
right. So if you look at our years of activity, we go about 2 years and have a drop off. 2 years.
I was basing on what rate of billing?
Oh, these are no. These are billed at the
Our
current
rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's easy.
Yeah. And you'll note that 17A will drop off, and you can see how those payments work in the center portion of that sheet. So anyway, on to the 8th officer. A couple of notes to make on this. The chief, I believe, we had mentioned, and it is in your notes, that when the chief put the 8th officer in, he also reduced his request for overtime by $3,000, and he reduced his part-time request by $2,000, his original request. So I assume that to mean that if the board does not put the 8th officer in, that those two items worth $5,000 should be put back in.
So what do you want to spend, Catherine?
It's my end.
Well,
I'll-
I don't want to save 5 cents. Never mind. I'm sorry. It's, go on.
Is it my understanding that this officer that he wishes to hire, that he's interviewed, tested, so on and so forth, he's going to use as the SRO, correct?
That is what I've understood.
He's told us. So, in essence, if that's the case, then this $83,443 for the full year cost for the CBA increase, as you have here for 2020, will actually be reimbursed by the school.
Well, there's a two-edged sword. Yes, 2/3 of that would be, but we will be returning your highest paid officer into our costs, which will cost us about $20,000 more.
Okay.
If that person, if this switch is to take place during that year. So, and that's just a function of the fact that the school district is bearing about $76,000 of cost of the $110,000 roughly. You know, that the
So
officer
they pay
costs.
2/3
They pay 2/3.
Phillies right now,
Correct.
2/3 of it, which is $70-some-odd thousand.
That's correct. And so if we were to put a lesser cost person in there, it'll be a lesser amount, obviously. So the difference between the two were, you know, I mean, we would bear that if someone left the department and someone else.
Do we
would-
know that it's gonna be 20,000, or do you just
I can-
shoot that figure out?
That's a shooting, that figure.
But even if you
But I can
add
tell you.
an 8th officer, regardless of who is in the SOU, you're increasing your cost substantially. Doesn't matter.
Did he give you
About
the new,
$25,000
did he give you the new
difference in total
schedule?
cost.
Yeah. He did not give you the new schedule? Give you the new schedule?
Maybe that tonight. Will you give yours back?
Yeah, but I'm just trying to think of where,
You know, I hate to do this, I'd like to throw it out there, but I'm thinking that we might want to go into non-public because a lot of this does involve possibly some restructuring of the police department that we have.
is there any way
like on,
you can
Beth,
make-
you ready to-
copies that I did?
that a lot of you, so I'm thinking that we should, can I just finish?
No, I think you need to look at non-public before you finish.
No, you don't
We'll
know
be
what I was
quiet.
saying.
Go ahead.
You stopped me in the middle of my talk, okay? And I'd like to finish that.
Okay.
I think that it might be necessary for us to go in non-public because some of this involves, and this hiring of this police officer involves restructuring, which could include the promotion or reassignment of people that are already in the department, and we would have to go and discuss that, which if that was released to the public or to the people, it could be detrimental to their thing and such.
So again, I would
91A.
suggest you look at 91A
Yep.
because
And that would be
It doesn't-
91A, under A, dismissal, promotion, or compensation of public employee.
no, it isn't.
You're not naming anyone.
It's public safety.
It isn't safety.
It's going to be
Oh, it
specific
is.
people that I'm talking about. And
So
what
you're
they're
gonna
going to
name
do.
names.
Yes, I am.
So adding an 8th officer has something to do with, I don't see any
Yes, it
correlation.
does. It
How
does.
can it be?
And if,
People come
I'm
and
going to
go.
make a motion that we go into RSA 91A:3, paragraph 2, a dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or discipline of such employee, or an investigation of any charges against him unless the employee affected. One has the right to a meeting and to request a meeting being open, in which case it shall be granted. And can we do that under two different parts of 91A? Because it's also be hiring of any person as a public employee. So we're going to do under both those categories.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second, we'll do a roll call vote. So, Constantino,
Are we doing it also under public safety? Because we're talking about the schedule? And that is where the loopholes are, so you need to talk about public safety.
I'm going to change my motion to also include I,
Public
under
safety.
91A, public safety,
Okay, then I will vote yes.
and we have a second. So Constantino, yes. Dawson?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
Fogg, no.
Jessamine, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
I think we hide in non-public too much.
We don't know when they're saying it's.
We're adults. We should be able to.
We are read. I'll make a motion to seal the minutes of non-public session for all the reasons that we went in. It's a personnel thing, it's a public safety thing, it's a scheduling thing, but it's all personnel related.
ABI.
Permanent.
Okay, we have a motion, I'll second that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
90% of that was, never mind. Go, move on.
Are you opposed?
So I'm definitely opposed.
Okay. So one opposed.
So, how would you like to vote the police budget? Would you like to vote?
What's the,
The bottom line police budget is,
You know what, if you're gonna go to the bottom line, I'm gonna make a motion to remove the 8th officer from the police department budget.
And related
Crickets.
lines, right?
Huh?
And related lines.
Well, yes, that goes without saying.
Expenses.
FICA, Medicare, license,
We have a motion.
retirement, health insurance.
Remove the 8th officer from the and the lines, insurance policy, et cetera. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
So, I didn't have a lot of time, I should have taken more time, but I didn't. But Northampton is a community that I often compare Tilton with. They have more population, their budget is $1 million higher than ours, I think it's $1 million higher. Their square miles were 11.4, there's 13.9, we have Route 3, exit 20, they have Route 1, which is a far bigger business district than we have. Very similar communities. Except their police budget is extremely low compared to ours. Now let me tell you their roster of personnel, police personnel. They have a deputy chief, and I guess I can give you the last names. It's not public.
I don't know if you need the last name.
All right, deputy chief, they have 2 sergeants, they have 5 patrol officers, they have a prosecutor, they have 1 detective, and they have one part-time patrol officer. That's what they have, and they have some administrative staff like we have down there. But those are sworn police officers. A little bit different from our police department. I have the statistics for both communities.
Number calls?
So,
That's a bogus number.
what is it?
Number of calls. I've yet to see what they represent.
No, well, I didn't bother getting them because, I've asked for years for him to, break down what those calls are. I know that, in 1 month, they get a majority of calls for my goat. Really? So, our total municipal budget appropriation for 2018, $5,753,601. Theirs was $6,668,166. I don't know what else to tell you. If Northampton can do it with this, then we certainly should be able to protect the residents of this town with the officers and staff that we currently have. And I think it's absurd to start hiring people now because we might need to replace employees in the future. You're gonna add, next year, it's what, over $83,000. Do any of you know what effect that has on the tax rate? Anybody? Tim, don't say a word. 17 cents. That one decision adds 17 cents.
Is she right, Tim?
Yeah.
Pretty close.
9,000 equals.
We had
5
8
cents.
offices in the
You all
patrol.
said, Pat, Catherine?
Yeah.
Okay, Pat?
We had 8 officers in patrol. We're replacing the 8th officer in the patrol. We're not adding because of retirements. We are replacing the 8th officer in the patrol.
So if you go back through and look at your annual reports, and you look at what our staffing was, you will find that, let's see, oh, this one's 2009. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 2016. We have, let's do this for Public Works. I can't tell you what I have now. But if you go back and you actually look in your annual reports, there was only one time that we had 8, and it was for a very short time. And then we went right back to 7.
I actually provided a report to the board a few years ago with a history going back, I believe, 12 years staffing levels.
We've got a motion on the table. Any more discussion on the motion? Joe, here, Pat. All those in favor of removing the 8th officer and related lines and expenses? Is that correct?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes, thank you.
Say aye.
Aye, absolutely aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Yay.
Yay.
So it's 3-2. 2, 4, and 3 against the motion.
Were there any other lines that the board wanted to?
Is this an accurate total? 2137960?
Hope so, yes.
Well, I didn't know if we made any changes earlier on.
No, just
Really
the
tight.
change I mentioned regarding the equipment purchase, removal of equipment purchase because of the detail fund.
I move that we accept the budget of $2,137,960 for the police budget.
Second.
Are you choking? Okay.
It's kind of tiny.
My wife jump
Good
start.
job, Tim.
Finance director chokes on the motion.
Finance director chokes.
Can you tell me, Tim, under discussion, what percentage of the budget is paid for with commercial property?
Yes, it's just over 50%.
So half that would be particularly paid by commercial entities. The mall and Polly's.
I can run it for you real quick. but,
50%.
How many of those commercial properties have a gross at the end of the year of over 300,000?
Don't know, Catherine.
Exactly.
What did you ask,
So-
Catherine? What was your question?
My question was pointed to the fact, I asked how many of those commercial properties have a gross of over $300,000 at the end of the
Oh,
year.
okay.
I mean, the point is,
Yeah. I get it.
a small item, but somebody who has a little mom and pop business, could just get by.
So I can give you the total if you like it. Our 523 million total taxable shown in our assessing program, 247,497,000 is commercial. So, and that doesn't include the commercial land only, so if you add that in, it's just over half, or right about half.
I feel like the commercial entities drive our need for a larger police department. And I'm gratified that they're picking up every bit as much as the residents.
I could be.
And- Okay, any other discussion on the motion? Joe,
You said something
reiterate
about
that.
the businesses. Joe, I couldn't hear what you said.
That's it, I'm glad to see that the businesses are picking up every bit of their fair share of this huge police budget, because they drive the need for this huge police department. We have the biggest police department per capita in the state, you know, I feel safer at night and whatever, but it's all because of the exit 20. The
Well,
rest
how
of
do you
the
explain
commercial.
that Northampton,
I don't want to talk about Northampton, thank you.
Why
I'm
wouldn't
talking
you?
about Tilton, because
Well,
I'm
I
not
am
in
talking about
Northampton,
Tilton.
and if all the towns around us jump off the cliff, we should jump off the cliff? No. I don't care what the other towns do, I've never cared
No,
what the other
really?
towns do, ever.
Northampton, you know
Don't
what their
care about
crime rate
Northampton.
is?
You don't have
I
any,
don't feel that any further
Okay.
input's going to sway
Not saying
anybody
for
from
town
what I've
meeting.
seen. If anybody wants to call the
Aye.
question.
And
Well,
so
the thing to
disgusting.
remember also is the businesses pay the same tax rate as the residents, so
Mhm.
they're grossing big bucks, they can afford it. Our residents are living paycheck to paycheck, I don't think they can afford it.
How many businesses?
can we call the question? I don't think we're gonna change anybody's minds with
No, I don't
this.
think we are, I find it amazing.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 I-
Opposed?
Nay.
No, please let the record show, absolutely no. No. I think it's unconscionable. You just, one decision, raised everybody's tax rate by 17 cents.
Mhm.
You didn't give it a second thought.
I have to pay it too, and I have lots
You
of.
don't know that we didn't
Okay,
give it a
this
second
is
thought.
done.
Please do
Please.
not even
Okay.
put that in my
Further
head.
discussion, next segment.
All right, so
My belief.
Let's
IT.
take it outside.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, I know, you already have this. Selectman Constantino had asked for a
Thank you.
representation of the growth of and expenditures of IT over the years. And this is from the point where we created the department back in 2013, which was a partial year. I believe it was started in May, actually April. And if you recall, this was following the acquisition, which did not involve me, of the car video systems. But what I ended up with was a lot of server and software activity. We had to replace servers. If you recall, that our police email had been down twice during the prior year for almost 2 weeks each time because they were blacklisted, and there were phishing programs for the Bank of Italy that were emanating from the police department. Not by our doing, but because they were bounced off of that. So there were a lot of changes made. We reduced the number of servers and consolidated things, standardized on the same server technology, went to virtual servers on top of Microsoft products, removed the Exchange server, added in Google and Google services. And you can see after that first year of significant expenses, and some of that hardware were the in-car video systems, so which in the end did not pan out. And in 2015, we went to body cameras to replace, for not only the officers, but also to act as the in-car systems. In 2016, we installed the exterior cameras here at Town Hall. Various other improvements. We had the MetroCast grant, I believe it was 15, where we recabled the PD, and I still have money to cable this building here once all the dust settles as to locations and requirements. And you can see how this chart changes through the years. So hardware is largely dependent upon what the big activity or requirement is that particular year. In 18, we upgraded the body camera systems. We put in the surveillance system at the PD, and also we started iWorks permitting in 2018. So you can see throughout the years, the average has been $98,620 average cost, and as far as my involvement versus what we had before, which we had, and I will, as time permits, go back, and I was requested to pull like 2009, 10, 11, is that right? What was your- No? Okay. All right. So some of the things that I do that Everbridge was not my first choice for the notification system, and the one we use now requires some effort on my part each time. Even tonight when we sent out this alert, I've now got 3 or 4 database changes I've got to make, and I've fashioned a system of a form to capture that information, the database that we keep and update, and then a process by which I update the One Call Now database. So we're saving about $2,500 a year versus Everbridge. The systems that several towns use, there's a very, and in fact, if I weren't working here, you could buy this system for $2,400 a year, and you'd have your movies online and live as you're conducting them. But because of the work that I do, and I take each one of these movies, and sometimes we've got about 5 during the week, and they've all got to be run through. They've got to have the watermark put on them. They've got to, there's about 4 different lengthy steps that they go through, and I've got that down to a science that takes me, little time, but it's still a savings as opposed to what we would have to pay if you were just, plugging something into the wall. The online tax cards, Avatar was charging us $23.16 to have our tax cards online, where they charge the realtors to go in and take a look at them. And as you know, we have our own that we update monthly that's more current and reflects, and it could be done more frequently, but that saves us $2,316, and that was the combination of the program I wrote and about a 2-hour effort each month to do. And then the web development. Some of you may or may not be aware, but there's more and more things that I've been able to set up for the website that are making use of Google Drive information, so that through Google permissions, people can update certain things both within our domain and outside of our domain, where we've got secretaries working for boards and commissions, and they have permission-based ability to update their agendas right now, and pretty soon they'll be able to post their own minutes and maintain their own pages, so that the content is going to be much more in control of the individual boards and commissions, and not everything have to go through either me or, when I'm not available, Gail does some of the posting as well for the homepage. So those things, there's been a lot of those things that I've done and continuing to do. You can buy a package. It's kind of like an online town hall. There's all kinds of them out there. The Civic Wear, they range anywhere from $1,500 a year to $3,000 a year. And were I not working here, you could have one of those as well. So I attribute about maybe $8,000 to $9,000 as to tangible things that I do on a regular basis that helps keep our costs down. Also, the service levels, they're usually very good. It's rare that somebody can't get a hold of me and that I don't handle something within a very reasonable amount of time, but I tell the department heads it's 2 hours during the week, 4 hours during the weekend, but most of the time they get instantaneous service or very, very soon afterwards, same day, depending upon what it is. So that gives you an idea of that. Now, if we want to move to the actual budget and to cover what Selectman Scanlon had asked for, which is how is the budget distributed. Hopefully you have your giant sheets from yesterday so you can read them. So what I did, as best I could, because there's some things that it's difficult to distribute. I've got some users that are that think a minor issue requires immediate assistance and is an emergency, and sometimes they take more of my time than I would care to spend. But it's something I have to judge, and I don't apportion my time to any particular department. An awful lot of my time is spent in documentation, and I can't emphasize that enough. And if you ever get somebody in front of you that doesn't document what they do, you ought to move on to the next guy. Same thing for having plans and a consistency in application of a methodology. You want to have reliability and redundancy built in where possible. You can't, I mean, you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars doing that, but there's a reasonableness that you have to apply. What is a reasonable amount of time were the PD to go up in flames, and we'd have to take that backed up instance and run it on something else. So, does it have to be within 10 minutes? If it is, you're going to spend $500,000. If it can be within a day, then you're looking at a very reasonable cost, which is what we have built in. So going down through this budget for Selectmen Scanlon, in the administrative, if you look at the first sheet that you're on, which shows the budget on the left, and I've had this plan laid out since 2014. For every year it would show the number of, primarily for hardware, but it would show which systems were being replaced, which were being upgraded. I'd put a single dollar in where it was a refurbished machine or something that I'd gotten through the court system. And because of those refurbished machines, I've got to add more money into those parts and pieces, if you will, the monitors and printers and just parts, because sometimes I get something that's fully loaded and it's even got a license that technically we don't use, but they come as if it had just come off someone's desk. Other times they come and they're missing parts. So it just depends whether it's worthwhile, depending upon the speed of the machine, the age of the machine, whether it's worth putting any money into. But as far as I'm concerned, it's still better than having to spend the money outright. And it doesn't take a great deal of time to evaluate that. Whether you get a brand new machine or a refurbished machine with some parts in it, you still spend the same amount of time configuring and deploying those machines. So it's not as if those are taking an extraordinary amount of time over and above where they wouldn't be worthwhile getting something free. So I just want to make sure that's clear. So in the administrative department I attribute 6 users, and there's a cost of $16,019. So you'll see that the telephone, this would be basically the main town hall users, if you will. And the assessing is under that, so these would be the areas other than finance, IT, and town clerk within town hall, and outside of land use. So within the town clerk, you can see there's approximately $6,289, and that's primarily in the tax collect and clerk software, and then in Google Apps. So you can see the number of users times our licenses of Google Apps down there. In the finance, I have a couple of administrative accounts, one of which is for finance, one of which is for our domain, so that that they are separate, so that if we have someone separately doing that, it won't interfere with any existing finance information. You can see our MuniSmart license, the security software I have under finance and IT, and that goes across the entire spectrum of users and devices. So we have a centralized enterprise level virus and malware software that is on every single laptop, every single desktop, and can even be deployed to other types of devices such as Android.
And does that come with ransomware as well? Is that in with malware?
Yep, it alerts to ransomware. And you know, of course, you just never know if something is going to catch everything. We have had instances of ransomware three times in the PD, but the last occurrence was, I believe, over 2 years ago at this point.
No ransoms paid, I trust.
None.
There you go.
And we lost very, very little. The most difficult part was educating users to beware of these things, and also educating them when there was something amiss. There was a period of time where one time someone alerted me at 2 in the morning, and it was a good thing because it got taken care of right away. We didn't lose a thing. Another time something was allowed to go for almost 12 hours, and we lost some files with that, but very few. But it's because of the cycles of backups that we have and how we do the backups, and I've got a type of one-sided mirror view, so the backups can get to the systems, but the systems can't get to the backup. So that, but the risk you run is if something runs rampant on the system and you're backing up all this junk, if you will, then when you go to restore it, you have to be sure that all your other backups, you're going to have to find that, you know, the backup that is most pure and not contaminated. So the sooner something's caught, the better. And this does alert to ransomware, and it does send me messages, text messages, and things of that sort. I also get alerted when people have somehow turned off their license. Usually that's when the system is frozen or been turned off, things of that nature. So anyway, that's that software. I can go through the replacement systems with you. In the PD, so you'll see the 9351 is for IMC, and that includes the additional 3 users.
I think we can just look through that, right?
User.
Do we need to go through line
Which is the
by line?
price per user?
For the 3 users, it's $750, and then the additional maintenance on top of that comes to, I think it was $875 for that.
Additional, for the 3 additional.
Mhm.
Mr. Chair, he's done an excellent job of laying this out. Do we need to go line by line?
Do you
on
have any
this?
questions as to how to read this report or anything that's on it?
Well, so that's the first. The other,
Can I get a copy?
certainly. The other has a distribution of the hardware.
You don't want to see that one?
No, I tried it, so I studied it.
The other has the
I didn't have
distribution of the
questions.
hardware on it.
And where
So-
things are located, where and what?
Yep, and that may not be entirely up to date. I've got to double check it for, you know, we did receive some additional equipment recently, and I haven't put any of that online yet. So, and I just had a system the other night, one of the supervisor systems seized with a bad power supply. I would love to be out of the hardware business. I know that the Selectman Constantino mentioned, you know, having I do have a backup in the services for firewall and servers, but one of my goals would be to get myself more out of the, you know, the hardware side of it. it can be time consuming.
Tim, I
Where
have
do
a
you
que-
store all that stuff?
Tim, I have a question, too.
Downstairs, in the server room at the PD and also at the downstairs. In the basement room, there's still equipment there, and there's also equipment in, which I really haven't organized how I'd like yet, in the old copy room.
So, I have a question. PTR, is that printer?
Yes.
So, the administrative assistant has 2 printers, town administrator has 2 printers, finance has 2 printers?
Yeah, and I can-
Always got 2?
Right, so the printers are not just a toner-related printer, but also label printers. So they each have a label printer, and as do I, as well as a printer.
I mean,
You know, the little,
yeah, yes, I'm pretty aware of printers, but I can tell you, I've worked at companies that have many, many, many more employees than this, and they have like 5 printers. They're centrally located, and people go to access them, a 15 or 20-foot walk. And I think the cost of running a laser printer, the maintenance on it, each one of those, if it's a color printer, it's got, what, 4 toner cartridges and all that. I think that this is a lot, and I'd like to see us start eliminating them or taking them out of service so we cut back on electricity and costs and make them accessible. And on top of that, everybody's got these printers, but every time I'm up here and we need to print something, we can never do it. For 2 years, I've never been able to say, oh, boom, I can go and hit this button, and it's going to come out on the printer I can look at here, or the one that's over there. And so I find it really difficult to see how that works. And
Sure.
And-
Which would you like me to address first? The number of printers? Well, so let me first
I
explain that.
understand that you think that we should have them, and I'm going to, you have to understand that no matter what you say, I'm going to say that I think that you shouldn't, and that people should be sharing them, so.
And so what I have tried to do over the years is to accommodate the users. If there are times when I've felt a request was over the top, and there have been a few, mostly with monitors. And in some cases, I've acquiesced when we've had a lot of monitors that were free. But what I do is I work with the department head and try to determine what their needs are. And I go by what the requests are, and I try to see if that's something I can accommodate. When it comes to printers, none of those printers are on maintenance contracts. And in general, when the printers die, we will replace it, usually with another printer that, I've got a spare printer that can be put in service in place of that. The color printers within Town Hall, I'm planning on taking those out because of the color copier that we received, and it has much lower operating cost per page. I don't have a place to deploy that copier yet, and I'm still waiting on Conway for a service contract on that because it is a little more involved. So I'd like to see what the costs of that are, but the consumables on that color copier are very reasonable and can be purchased from Amazon. It happens to be the same one that the Mango Systems has apparently. And that was part of the $18,000 of copiers we received from the courts.
So we're paying electric and toner and.
Electric and toner, and then
we throw them away when they die.
on some of them. Some of these color printers that we have currently they're about 9 years old. Well, 2 of them are 9 years old, and 1 of them is 7 years old. They all use the same set of toner, so that when I'm purchasing toner, I'm not buying a whole nother set for everything. The 3 printers share all the same 4 cartridges.
So you can buy in bulk and get them cheaper?
No, and
You're only stocking one set.
you're stocking 1 set, and I don't.
I see.
And generally speaking, there's some that are historically you don't use quite as much of a certain color, even when they're printing color. But my goal would be to cycle those out. Some of the older color ones, and The other thing too is the copier that we currently have on a service contract downstairs in the archive room. I'd be looking to move that along too. That's our highest count copier, and with the agreement that I have with this company for time and materials maintenance, and given the age of these new copiers, we should be in good shape. I'm just not ready to pull the trigger yet on that. I want to be sure that if we go with the color copier in its place, that it's going to be able to do everything that the existing copier does.
I mean, everybody else wants to listen, I can, but I still can't rationalize why the person that sits at that desk and the person that sits at that desk has two separate copiers that are a couple feet away from each other, and why they can't share one. Because, and then they say they don't have enough space in their offices.
So these sets of, this set here uses that printer as their main printer. That is the new copier. So prior to that, when we didn't have that, there was a black and white printer that we had gotten from the courts that was up here, which fortunately at the time that we got 3 of those, the state was taking back the Lexmark printers in the town clerk tax collector's office. And these are even better than those.
I understand, but I'm looking at 19 printers plugged in at one time, and the electricity and maintenance and the time that it takes every time one jams up, and or somebody needs something or doesn't understand, or they just the urge, like all the printers around, it seems like it encourages to print more paper and all that, and it takes up your time for each one. And like I said, you rationalize it, I can't, and I never will, because I've worked in places with 200 people that have like 6 printers, and everything goes great. And I would like, as a selectman, to be able to hit a button on my computer and print something at least in this room, and as well as Jeannie and
That can be accomplished, right?
Yeah, so what you've been using are $100 Chromebooks that I bought for the board about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now, to replace the Toshiba tablets, some of which met an untimely death, and yeah, and others that some still cling to. But you know, and you know, maybe it's time to replace these. The nice thing about these is that they from my standpoint of supporting the board, I sort of feel as though if there's something to be printed, it can be printed by your staff up here, and that can be easily arranged, and that's something that.
What if we're at a budget committee and the budget committee says, hey Pat, can you print that? And we're like sitting here embarrassed because we can't print it.
we're the only office staff, nor the.
We're the only ones here
We
that
can't
can print it.
So maybe what I should be doing is looking to replace your Chromebooks with something else.
Well, we can't.
You can't print it from Chromebook?
You can, if I get you
Google Cloud?
if I get you a cloud printer, and we did have an early one that just didn't work very well.
Another printer.
Number 20.
Buy another printer.
If we get one printer, can we get rid of 3 for each one that we buy?
No.
Okay, so we have a predicament there, and it's probably going to go on for a while.
Well, it's difficult for me. It's difficult for me to. I would hope that you would have confidence in me to manage it as best I can to accommodate the user's needs, the department requirements, and the support of those devices. So, you know, having said that, I definitely understand where you're coming from. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I've worked in similar environments. But we are somewhat paper intensive in certain departments here, and some things have been improved because now they don't have to use a separate drawer for something. There are fewer jams down in town clerk tax collector because they have their own separate title printer versus, you know, the dogs. There's a tray for dogs. There's a tray for this.
Not to mention every time Cindy notifies everybody in town hall, don't use the printer for the next 45 minutes. I'll be printing the tax bills or whatever.
But no one is more interested in saving money than I am, which I know which printers have the lowest cost per page.
Because I'm cheap.
I get accused of that myself because I don't always give people the newest equipment. I don't always give them, the latest and
No, I
greatest.
appreciate that. You
So-
get the most fantastic deal.
I try.
Hands down.
I try.
And most of them involve no money.
So in any event, so I have taken some things out of this budget that were initially in here. In the hardware, and you can look at the detail, but I had discussed with you before what I was looking at in terms of replacements in town hall and at the PD. And sometimes those requirements change. What I plan, that something else may happen and requires a change of plan. As you may recall, last year we had to make we had to spend some money on hardware that was unanticipated because the federal requirement for CGIS information had to be on a certain level of software.
I had a question.
Mhm.
This $101,517, is that an accurate figure, or are you changing that tonight?
I'm not changing that tonight.
I make a motion that we accept the $101,517 for the IT budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Pick one.
Peter,
Catherine.
On it, any discussion amongst the selectmen on this? Any further questions? And I'm going to say, my discussion is going to be, I'm going to vote no, and the reason why I'm going to vote no is because the $875 for the software licenses for the IMC that the chief said that, and everybody said that people aren't logging off, and that's why we need to add more. So that's why, but everything else I'm good with. So I have to vote no, because that's in the number. Any other? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed, John?
Let the record show.
Okay, so I think
Oh, but did you do highway? We did highway.
you did highlight.
So,
Land use,
land use.
John wants time
but we are going to postpone.
Yeah, that was,
Did we do all the observations?
Yes, except for community action
So we didn't do all the observations.
Community action.
is the only outstanding one.
So it's land
She
use and
wanted to make
community
a
action?
motion.
Those are the only two outstanding things on this budget?
Absent the additional information on borings, quote for borings, and then the TAN rate.
The boring could be in the warrant article.
light or no light, you got through it. Is that all we need to do tonight?
Just a couple things. The town report. We have been collecting the reports. I think I noted that in my report to you. But do you all have a desire for a theme? Do you want to dedicate this town report to somebody?
We always do.
If you're not prepared to talk about it tonight, we can revisit it on the 24th.
But we should all think about
Yeah.
our ideas on that.
None. The other thing is we're starting to work on warrant articles. I guess we'll, I don't know, draft some up for you to look at.
Along with the revenues, you'll get the revenues too.
Do you have Joyce's list on warrant articles through the year? We
Yeah.
go up in
Yeah.
warrant articles.
And then in my report, there were just 3 things I wanted to bring to your attention.
Do we need to discuss those tonight?
What?
You said, well, there's a couple of things that you said, please do, and that's
Yeah.
an action thing.
Right, and if you're not prepared to, certainly I'm not going to push you to it.
Well, I am.
The job description is one, the language for the historical marker, just because I want to be able to get that filed with the state and get us in the queue. And the DES has, if you read that, you'll see that the DES has agreed to pay for monitoring and that they need a work scope, and I would like to use the same company that we've used in the past, and I just want you to say okay to that, so I can get that
DES monitoring?
for the arsenic on Ernie's. It's in my report, but
They agreed to pay for it?
yes.
I think, is that what
That's the,
we're discussing what we're going to discuss? there any of those topics that you wish to discuss tonight?
The state's paying for it.
Yes.
We're gonna pay the company we used before.
Yep.
There's no money out of our pockets.
And it
Go
should
for
be
it.
done.
Get it done.
One thing I'd like to say about it is that the arsenic level is at what's normal and what should be at for our state. And it, I mean, in our location, and we have a wellhead that's sticking up in a parking lot that hinders things, and they shouldn't even be monitoring this anymore. It should be done. It should be completely over, and there's no reason why they're continuing this. And we would like to use the parking lot for some winter things, for cross-country skiing, and people snowshoeing that, and we can't use the parking lot because we have a wellhead sticking up in there. So, I agree to the state paying for it, but I really think they need to look at that. It's over. It hasn't shown any.
Unfortunately, yeah,
How do we do that?
yeah.
There's
we
a
don't.
requirement for continued
That
monitoring.
was the agreement.
There is a
Oh, that was the
requirement.
decree.
Federal
Some of
funds,
the
yeah.
stuff.
So you're okay with me
Federal
having
funds
a-
mandated.
having the,
Let them use
Until
the
such
money.
time that's no longer a problem.
okay. Are you okay with the historical marker language?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then the only other thing was the job description, and that was based on the conversation we had, changes I
Well, I
made.
read and signed it, but it's still going around.
Okay, that's it for me unless anyone has any questions.
What was the,
I didn't read the job
Oh.
description.
Pat, also, just a reminder, you wanted to bring up the chair rails, the chair, over at the senior center. The equipment,
Yes, the chair stairs, the electric chair stairs that I had asked if the Public Works could just go and pick them up and put them in the steel thing. And somebody had the brilliant idea of just saying, well, maybe we could reuse them. But, you know, I went to take a picture of them and they're in a pile. And I did manage to get a couple. They're extremely heavy and they are old. I did get the serial numbers for Jeannie and everything, but we've already put these in to 2 homes. 2 separate electricians looked at them. They cannot be retrofitted in customized to that particular homes because they're old and each one is made to fit that home, apparently. So are we setting
Motion
ourselves
disposed.
up for a liability and
Second.
if you...
Second.
All those in favor of disposing?
Good,
Aye.
all right. Aye. Motion to adjourn.
I have one thing
Oh.
the board needs to be aware of. There was a decision made by the zoning board a number of months ago. And, let me read you this. This is from,
Office of State Planning.
thank you. Under RSA 674, colon 33, 3 votes are necessary to change any administrative decision or to decide in favor of any matter legally before the board. If there is not a full board, even with alternates serving, the chairperson could give the applicant the option of postponing the hearing until all members are present. If the applicant chooses to proceed with the hearing, he, she should be advised that a hearing before a 3 or 4 member board will not be grounds for a rehearing in the event the application is denied. My understanding, I wasn't there, is that the zoning board did just that. The applicant chose to go forward, they were denied.
It was a 2-2 vote.
It was a 2-2 vote, so it failed.
The statute says you need a 3 yes.
So they were allowed to go back before the board for a second decision.
Not legal.
It's not an approved decision.
Pardon?
So can we?
well,
I just want you to be aware of it. Like I said, I wasn't at the meeting. It was brought to my attention. I looked and found this.
so maybe you could bring Dari to a meeting, because I
I'll
assume
give
he
this
was
to
there.
you.
Can we send a letter to Dari that we find
Why-
that
Wait an
decision?
explanation.
Have him come to the, when he comes before, which actually, reminds me. So next week, let's talk about a schedule. So do you need any more workshops?
No,
Okay.
no more workshops,
Okay.
right?
We'll wait till Monday to decide, Jeannie.
No,
Onion
we're
too.
gonna, no.
Wednesday.
Because as much as Joe likes surprises. Yay. So no workshop. So next week, the 24th, we're going to have the chief in, because it's his turn to be up. We're going to do the swearing in, and I guess any other, we've got lots of minutes for you to prove.
What time is the
Review and
swimming in?
approve. 6 o'clock.
Should we have cookies or something, since I think this room's gonna be full to capacity?
I asked the chief about that. He thought there might be 20 people.
I'll make some cookies.
20 people?
That's what the chief said. That's
Make
what he said.
cookies.
I've got at least 20 calls.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what he told me. I
Seriously,
asked him.
I've gotten at least
Okay.
20 calls.
I was going to have Pat do the swearing because she was a bus driver and the kids
Okay.
and Laz, everybody okay with that?
Oh, whoever wants to, I'm fine. Pat did such a great job.
So that's the 24th, and then on the 31st, because we've had budget meetings, I was going to have Dari and Kevin in to do their reports that they've got pushed back on because of budget work. Are you okay with that?
I'm okay.
All right.
I'd like just one break to have a short night.
No breaks.
Next
After
Wednesday.
March.
Next Wednesday.
July.
I have a.
No work on the 25th for me, so I'm
I have
okay
two
with it.
things.
I think we should schedule one meeting to catch up on all our projects. We have a lot of those.
The 31st?
No, it should be
So
further.
categorize some meetings for.
Well, we have
There's
the,
a lot to do with the town report too, Kathy.
you know, we have, well, I should go this way, because I've got it green tab. The, procedures,
Yep.
standards of conduct, we have, we got an employee
You
manual
know,
that's
winter
pitiful.
maintenance and all sorts of.
You mean schedule a meeting outside of Thursday night to do it?
No,
Okay,
just
on
a
a Thursday night.
night where we just kind of go through this stuff and play catch-up. You know, we've done that before.
Yeah,
Nothing real intense,
just do it.
just do
So-
it.
And Joe,
maybe-
you have the,
I have,
Sometime in
I
February.
have an issue. I've noticed that the Christmas lights are still up over on Island. I just wondered if that was a conscious decision. You know, I love the Christmas lights, but I'm going to continue having Christmas lights up.
It's
or just
cheaper, we
leave
don't
them
have to pay
alone.
to take them down and put them up again, Joe.
Well, you know, there is that.
unplug them too.
Take the ones maybe off the railing or unplug those. I like the gazebo lit up, but what are we gonna do? I just wondered. And we don't even need a thing. And my other thing is motion to adjourn.
Second.
Yes.
I think it would be cool
Were
to
we
leave the
supposed
ones
to
on the
receive
gazebo.
the RFP on paving this week?
It's electricity, John.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Those little tiny
Huh?